We're introducing ourselves now. I was not on the same page. Okay. 3, 2, no. This is the cool thing about takes is you can do whatever you want and Bailey can edit this later.
Bailey's gonna do all the work.
My name is Micah Perulis. I'm speaking in a British accent tonight. I hope you do forgive me for all of our British listeners today. I'm going to introduce Code 6 with my 2 co-stars. Could you please introduce yourselves?
I'll go first. I am Bailey Joe.
And I'm Isaiah Trench. That's me.
We are located at 3 different parts of the world. That means a lot, actually, if you consider it. I'm reporting here live from Columbia, South Carolina. Bailey, Jojo C, is in Miyazaki District, Japan, and Isaiah is from Washington, and we are here to give perspective on the movie tonight called A Fish Called Wanda, a classic British comedy film from 1988, and we're very excited to introduce that to you. So, Bailey, what are your introduction thoughts on this tonight?
Well, A Fish Called Wanda was my pick, and it's one of my favorite movies. I'm very excited for you guys to have seen it, and I want to know, did you guys like it?
Oh, on a 1 to 10, like a general basis, how we measuring this for the audience's sake?
Did you like it or not?
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. It's not what I expected going in, and I enjoyed it. So I'd give it a pretty good score. Mike?
Yeah, I did enjoy it. It's weird now for me because we're working on it. As an actor, I can't look at films anymore the same way. It ruins it for you. It's like having sex for the first time, which I don't know what that's like either. But you look at it and it's different, and you can't look at movies the same way again. But I did enjoy it, and I think it was great. So good job on that, Bailey. I appreciate that suggestion.
Yeah. So for those who may not know, A Fish Called Wanda is, yes, a 1988 British American comedy. It was written by John Cleese, who played Archie Leach, and he and Michael Palin, who played Ken, are both of Monty Python fame.
That's what it was. I couldn't remember. I thought that looked familiar.
They are opposite Jamie Lee Curtis, the wonderful Jamie Lee Curtis, and Kevin Kline. Oscar-winning performance by Kevin Kline.
Can we just talk about the casting for a second there? It was revolutionary for the 80s, right? You have this whole genre, you have this whole fan base for Monty Python, and you're going to combine it with Jamie Lee Curtis, and it's like this zonkers. Like, I don't know. Like, it must have been revolutionary, right, Bailey?
I mean, for the time, it was very well received, and actually, a man in the movie theater, he laughed so hard that he had a heart attack and he died in the movie theater because the movie made him laugh so hard. What? Specifically when Ken has
during the heart attack scene.
No, when he has the French fries stuck in his nose.
Oh.
Dear Twitter.
That was the part? That's interesting.
A man died on this movie because he laughed too hard. How do you even describe that for a movie? Like, what an endorsement.
Do you put that in the newspaper as like a headline for like marketing the movie, or is that's just not good?
I would put it there. Like,
because it's marketing, like, hey, dude, somebody died because I thought this was so funny. Or is it like, oh, it'd be a little,
It's
I want to say that maybe they did, but I hope they did.
I hope they did too. I hope they capitalized on that.
Let's just say it would be well received.
Rest in peace, but
it would be relevant.
Opportunities.
Nowadays. Absolutely. I mean, it was well received to begin with. I think the whole world loved it when it first came out, and now. Sorry, that was the so unprofessional.
I love the commitment.
We are here with the role. No British person. I'm not British, but I clearly just spit on screen. No British person would do that. But no, it was.
You stuck up, pompous asshole.
I'm committed to the character. Hello, I'm an actor. Yeah. Here we are. I mean, no one would do that then, but now, absolutely. If you put that someone died watching this movie, it would be well received by our generation. Stop shitting on camera. Are you serious?
Considering how many people and how many dogs die in this movie.
Dude, it was also, I was crazy. I didn't put it together until the last dog died. I didn't put it together that, like, at the very beginning of the movie, it shows Ken in his apartment with the, fighting against animal cruelty poster. Didn't connect those two links until the third dog died. Then I was like,
you didn't see how upset he was getting?
Well, so that's what happened. Like, I don't know why I didn't connect, but on the third dog, when he was like crying, I was like, oh, that's right.
That is quite literally like you being like, I didn't know he had a stutter.
I was like,
those
I don't know
are
why
the
I
two
forgot.
pillars of that character.
Well,
he loves animals. He has a stutter.
So the thing is, like, the first 2 minutes when it shows the poster, I remember like mentally taking note. I'm like, oh, that's interesting that they'd show that. Totally forgot.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because when we first began this introduction video, I attempted to do a setup. It's very hard to do on camera, especially. I thought that actually that was well done as an actor's standpoint, because it's really hard to do a convincing set to begin with. And the whole time I'm watching this film, I'm like, oh my God, I'm having anxiety watching this man. The entire time it's like, at the very end of the movie, he's finally writing down his thoughts on paper. I was like, where was this in the beginning in the first place? But then you realize the characters are so specifically placed that the asshole narcissist, which is who I forgot already,
Otto.
would not allow that. Yes, Otto. I said Oscar. Oscar-winning award.
Oscar.
It would not allow that as a character. So I thought it was brilliantly done. I thought.
Yeah.
I thought there was the comedic humor of the dogs dying just sold the entire film on its level of seriousness.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
The dogs dying. No. When that was it a Doberman? When that Doberman picked up the dog and just ran away, and it killed it. That was so funny.
It was like a Jurassic Park moment where it's like,
and then
and it's like, it's fake because it's a fucking plush toy down the fucking sidewalk, and like, what the fuck just happened? And you're prepared as an audience member, you're prepared, and you're like, oh my God, it's a fucking. I mean, and so the other two that died, it's just you're ready for it, and it's hysterical. It sets the mood so fucking well. And the message, Isaiah, that you presented earlier about animal rights is just spot on.
I wish I remembered it sooner, because I died when the third dog died, and I remembered that. I was like, oh, that's right.
It was a cinder block, right? It was a cinder block that just.
Is it?
That means that you didn't notice
I know.
His first interaction with Otto is Otto throwing the knife and it hitting the little baby seal poster.
Yeah,
and
I remembered that.
The tiniest gasp.
I had remembered that because it was still near the beginning, but I don't know. I just spaced on the first two dogs, and it wasn't until the third dog. And then when the old lady was with the leash trying to walk, and even took her 10 seconds staring at the box
See, that's why that's why Monty Python, those guys, their humor is so good. Mm-hmm. And Mike, I think you were saying that it's very dry. No, it was very indie.
Yes. Oh well. Side note for the audience: we're obviously in a group chat, and the first thing I noted about this entire thing was the dryness of the movie. And the movie was, for me, looking back in the 80s, right? We're looking at the 80s, and the 80s was all about more dry communication, but in a humorous aspect, if you're going that route. I mean, and the 80s in general is very dry, and the learning as an entertainment industry in the film is concerned. So yeah, that was the first thing I texted Bailey in the Facebook group messenger. It was like, God, it is dry as fuck. I've had blowjobs less dry than this.
I don't know if that's accredited to it being made in the 80s, and I think it's more so that it's British humor.
Oh, true that.
Because like Monty Python
British.
is extremely dry, like Faulty Towers, like it's known, like that's how, Isaiah, you're gonna be really happy. That's how we got The Office. The original Office was British humor.
And Skins. Sorry, time out, audience. I'm done with the accent. I can't do this anymore.
You're not gonna. Oh, you were doing such a good job, though.
Appreciate it.
I heard they were loving it. I was getting texts in from like audience viewers, being like, "Whoa, this dude actually British."
Please stop.
It was Isaiah.
Bless us with your Britishness.
Isaiah, and they wanted to please him. And thank you, audience who's obsessed with Isaiah. You're right, but I need to stop doing this. My mom is obsessed with British films and mysteries in general, and she's always sending me things. And she just sent me something about the show Are You Being Served, which was done in like the 60s or 70s on Amazon Prime. And yes, Bailey, because you said that, it reminded me, you're right. It is definitely a tribute to the norm of British style, which is very deadpan, dry humor, culturally, because everything is so under the rug in Great Britain. Like, they don't talk about issues usually at that time. I don't know about now, but like, it's like, you know, it's like insinuated problems, right? Like,
so you're saying that Otto's Anglophobia was correct, in that he hated the British because they were so repressed.
Well, no, no. Oh my God! Even when I try to stop myself, no. Well, I mean, it speaks to. I mean, it's not just so cut and clear. It's just problems, like heavily implied issues in general. But I mean, also humor-wise, like the humor of it all comes from just it being laid out, because nothing about British style at the time was laid out plainly in transparent issue. I mean, that was talked about in the film, right? Like, he was just like, oh, British, we British, we just this proper this and proper that, you know, like we you know, they don't do that in general. It's all like implied, and we're going to talk about this later, but we won't. And that was the whole point of the character development in that film, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Like Archie's arc, John Cleese's character, like he becomes very affected by being smitten with Wanda, this American, that he kind of becomes more like outspoken and bombastic, like a true American.
That's why they love America. Make America great.
Yeah, that's good.
No, but I will say that's not my view. Archie, if there's an Archie person out there, like for all the Archies out there, just know that I'm available and single and ready for you.
I know
John Cleese guy.
He's very sexy in the movie. Like,
yes, I wanted to marry him from the get-go. Immediately, I was like, I want to introduce you to the world. Can you be proper with me? And like, can I just make you, like, can I corrupt you?
Even when he's clipping his toenails and his bunions and scratching at his bald spot.
Cute.
He is a sexy bitch.
Such a fucking sexy. Isaiah would agree. He laughs because he agrees.
Yeah.
However, no one is as sexy as Jamie Lee Curtis as Wanda.
True. That's a fact. You know what? Yeah, can I divulge for a second? So nothing I've seen from Jamie Lee Curtis was after the late 90s, and so Scream Queen was her iconic phase, I would say. And then I saw Christmas with the Crank. I mean, her whole comedic style was off of like this hysteric situation, and like I saw that first, and it was harder to buy the role sooner, you know, because this is such an intro role for her, you know. So it was like, oh my God, this is her, you know. So it played well in some comedic aspects, but in others, I'm like, you know, I can't take her totally seriously.
Are you telling me that you have not seen her in Freaky Friday?
I was just about to say that. I was like, oh, come on.
No, that's what I'm talking. Well, no, for sure, Freaky Friday. No. I'm including that for sure.
Okay.
I mean, absolutely. I think her Scream Queen.
Because Scream Queens is like very recent, and it's a TV show. Shitty TV show, and she was basically there because she's like the original Scream Queen of horror.
Oh, well, that's what I thought, because she's original Scream Queen. I thought that was referring to the 80s,
70s.
That's what I'm saying. She was old school with the Scream Queen Okay, so correct me, audience. I don't know shit. But I knew that it was old school, and I saw that in advance without seeing it in the begin with. So that shows how much I know. But I saw that first from Christmas of the Cranks, Freaky Friday situation, and here I am now looking at that, and it's like, wow, like this is early Jamie Lee Curtis, and it's from that perspective, it's one way harder to buy in, but another way I'm like, I love her for it, and this is why this movie makes sense.
Oh yeah, and it's like, for me, I don't like heist movies, and I don't really like movies that center around con artists, but she's so charismatic and so good that I completely forget that she's a con artist.
It's different. It's different though. Like you don't like heist movies and like movies like that because heist movies are stereotypical garbage that are all just like cookie cutter and they all look the exact same. Like, this was not that. This was such like fun twist on like the dryness and everything else about it. Well, it wasn't your typical heist movie.
It is it's called a heist comedy, like on Wikipedia. That's what it was marketed as. And I like literally wrote in my notes, I'm glad that the actual heist was over in like a minute.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it wasn't even, that's why I would say it wasn't a heist movie, because the movie was not the heist. The movie was like the heist happened in the first 20 minutes. And then like, they didn't even bring the diamonds back into it until like the last 20. Like the whole middle hour was just goofy, weird character development. And so, I was so confused at who Wanda was actually helping and not helping. So
herself.
Yeah, it's about the story, right? And
right, but then at the end, even when she actually like was helping Archie, I was like, well, she's not actually helping Archie. And then I was like, oh, maybe she is helping Archie.
Well, he eventually like saw her for who she is.
Did she?
You know?
Did she actually fall in love with Archie? I don't know if she did.
I wouldn't say,
hang on.
I wouldn't say she fell in love with him.
Oh wait, Bailey, I think we need to take a moment of silence for Isaiah.
I don't know.
Can you tell us for why you don't think she actually fell in love with Archie in the end?
I would like to hear the evidence for why she did, because all the evidence I have is that she lies and like manipulates as a good actor, and so like we don't see her ever show any real affection for Archie besides the weird accent fetish.
Do you?
And that's not a real thing. So
I thought Jamie really communicated over time that she's accidentally fell in love with him. Like she's like, oh shit, I'm doing all this for fake, but actually I just realized that he's amazing. It was the moment that they first.
What was the moment? What was the moment?
It was the flat in the British, right? Where like, it was the getaway moment for the first time, and he said like, I'm just so remarkably in love with you, and like that look that she gave in the camera was like, you are like.
I don't know,
I think because well, first off, love isn't real, you turkeys.
Sure.
Sorry.
But no,
of course.
I mean, for me, I don't think that she fell in love with him necessarily, but like, at that point, literally all of her cards had been laid out, and he still like liked her. I don't think he was in love with her either. He's like a romantic old man, you know.
Mike is just a hopeless romantic, and he wanted to believe.
Okay.
Well, I mean, every single old man thinks that every female cashier is his true love. So
why are you talking with a bit of a spice there, a little bias in that voice?
Maybe because I want that to happen, you know. That's the magic of this.
Yeah, Bailey, every single word she's like, ugh, and Mike is like, just talk to me.
You know, well, no. Ironically, is because I also don't believe in love either, and I hate rom-coms and romantic shit in the film industry to begin with. But like for this, I was like, I buy it. I do buy it. I low-key buy it with my shitty. This is not an advertising moment. Or that, not what's happening. But like, I bought it. I did. I thought Jamie Lee Curtis absolutely sold. Like, I accidentally fell in love in this film. Like, even if it was a total bullshit comedy film. Like,
I agree with Bailey. I think her cards were on the table. She was surprised he was still there, and she was willing to just kind of see where it went. But I don't think it was anything.
However, I want to say, I think the indication that she actually did like him and had feelings for him was the fact that when they were on the plane, she started speaking Russian to him that she knew. Whereas throughout the whole movie, her whole thing was that she was turned on by bad Italian. But like, then when they're like about to have sex and she's like, do you speak Italian? He's like, oh, of course I do, but it's such an ugly language. And then he starts speaking Russian and she's like, whoa,
Yes.
this is even hotter.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then
An
as
accent
it
fetish.
closes,
Yes.
she is like, she starts telling him like Russian words. I think that's an a thematic cinematic indication that no, she actually does want to be with him. Not necessarily that she's in love with him, but then again, it is an 80s movie.
Quick
Yes.
sidetrack. I don't know anything about Italian or Russian, but was it just me, or were they just like throwing in random politician names?
For sure. Absolutely.
I translated every single Italian
And
phrase.
This is why I asked, because I knew you would do something like that.
Because that Otto says. But I'll save that for the end.
All right, good. I was like, you know what? I bet Bailey looked it up, because I'm like, I was listening to some of those phrases in Italian. Again, nothing about the language. I'm like, I shouldn't have recognized that word. And I feel like they were like sneaking things in there, hoping just people weren't paying attention or listening, just for fun.
Yes.
So, like, I'm pretty sure I heard Otto say like Benito Mussolini at one point, like in the middle of his sentence. I was like,
the sexiest of the dictators. No, that is forever Stalin.
Forever Stalin.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So okay, so yeah, it's a heist movie. So everyone thinks that Jamie Lee Curtis and Kevin Kline Wanda and Otto are brother and sister. They're Americans who were flown over from the US to help George and Ken make this robbery. But then it's like the two of them double cross George, but George double crosses Otto so he can run away with Wanda.
Double crossing everybody.
And Wanda was going to double cross Otto.
Should we have started with this from the beginning? Should we have started with this?
No. The key is to confuse everybody and then get to the real point.
Yeah. Isaiah with the tactics here.
And then George gets arrested, and that's how they meet Archie, who is his lawyer / barrister. They interchange those words, but they're actually
I was
different.
Confused by that.
I looked it up, and it's actually they're two different things.
Well, because wasn't Archie the lawyer at first, and the other guy was the barrister, and then they flipped it, and Archie's called himself the barrister later.
I guess I don't know.
What is a barrister?
It's
for our audience members, not me. I know, of course.
I believe that it's kind of like similar to a paralegal.
Okay.
As opposed to
a person called to the bar and entitled to practice as an advocate, particularly in the higher courts. What's the difference between a lawyer and a barrister? Lawyer is an umbrella term for both solicitors and barristers. Well, they wear wigs, so who cares?
Yeah, we need to make a comeback, by the way.
This is the entertainment industry. You will confuse it the way you want it to and go, and it will make sense in terms of the film's direction. So you're not going to question it when you watch it. But if you're a Bailey or Isaiah, you will because you're smart. So that's how that works.
Yeah, so they get mixed up with the lawyer, and it's just goofy screwball antics throughout.
Love goofy screwball antics sometimes.
I love screwball comedies. They don't make movies like that anymore. It's a real shame.
I'm trying to give an example of a recent one.
It's British comedy. Well, how would you feel about, this is a different entire podcast, listeners. Steel Magnolias and other such films from that time, was kind of on that level too. Stop.
I've never seen Steel Magnolias.
Me neither.
Then I have an idea for our next film, which is not Steel Magnolias because it's boring. But it's not boring. It's great. It's fantastic. But I don't.
Good sell.
It's not our next movie. You'll have to watch on there.
All right.
But, 80s films seem to love combating certain real world issues in that time. Wouldn't you say, Bailey? Or in Isaiah?
I think it depends on the genre. 80s, when I think of 80s movies, I think of mostly kind of knuckleheadedness. Like there were some movies that had really great commentary on what was happening, like in the world, like John Carpenter's movies were really great about that. But yeah, like because of like what a stronghold Reagan had on like the culture and Reaganomics and all that, I feel like mostly a lot of it was really just kind of fun garbage. I guess Gremlins was very class.
Sorry. Someone just
Class
invited
central.
a group called Mike as a Merman on Facebook, and I just can't.
But you are a merman.
No. Yeah, that's a fact.
No.
You're traveling. Wait, have you seen The Lighthouse?
No.
You should.
Damn it. Okay. Never mind. I'll save my joke for later.
People can't see under the table, but bottom half of Mike is in a kiddie pool because he's a merman.
No.
He's got his
I'm not posing. I'm posing. Ariel's my favorite Disney princess, but that was so stupid.
Who'd you fall in love with? How'd you lose your tail?
I'm trying to have a real conversation with my podcast people, Isaiah and Bailey, and this fucking group chat pops up with Mike as a real mermaid with an actual following, and I just can't deal with it right now.
Look at your hair. It almost covers your mermaid titties.
Well, I mean, you're right, but no. This is about us right now.
Okay.
You're right.
Okay. Yeah, so the movie's great. What were some things that like you guys really took note of?
Oh. Sorry, let me get the...
Ironically, the cat poster at the very beginning about animal cruelty that I then forgot about. What else did I take notice of? The fish. Why did Ken name the fish Wanda? Was that just coincidence?
I think coincidence.
Okay. Okay.
No, I think he was in love with her low-key from the beginning.
Yeah, but he wouldn't have known Wanda beforehand.
Well, it takes a while to set up a heist.
I think that he loved Wanda because of her amazing seductive style, and he named one of his fish after her. And that was one of the confusing moments for me watching the film was like, the whole Wanda, and she was surprised when she heard it, Jamie Lee Curtis. And so I think that was one of the cool metaphorical parts of the film, right?
I don't know if it was like a big metaphorical thing. I mean, that is an interesting way to take it. I'd never considered that. I figured it was just like, oh, there's a fish that's called Wanda. There's a woman that's called Wanda. That's funny.
Why is it called the fish called Wanda?
I don't know. And there have been a million jokes about that. The movie A Fish Called Wanda is about a woman named Wanda and a fish called Wanda, and they say the fish is named Wanda in this movie A Fish Called Wanda.
I mean, if you look at the artwork for the film, there's like Jamie Lee Curtis, and there's also an actual fish.
It's an anthropomorphized sexy fish, the best kind of fish.
It was amazing. I mean, better than the whatever sexy film from 2016 that I don't remember that had an amazing soundtrack. But it was great. I think that was one of the main implied points of the entire film was the actual play on words or the metaphorical part of the fish itself from the film itself, The Fish Called Wanda, right? Like they wouldn't have incorporated an actual fish in the artwork for the film with Jamie Lee Curtis.
That's like a marketing thing.
But no, Jamie Loki was a fish herself.
Where's her Facebook page?
I mean, it was an emotional catfish.
That's true. Well, catfish wasn't really a thing then, like the term.
No.
But no, I really loved Wanda. I feel like any other actress, it wouldn't have been as like fun or like as believable, because like Jamie Lee Curtis is amazing, and she's very beautiful, but she's not like drop dead gorgeous, like classic beauty. Like a lot of it comes from just how she carries herself and her charisma,
which was a very stark contrast to beauty in the 80s.
Yeah, like yeah, a lot of like women in the 80s were just kind of like very much just blonde, gorgeous, and we're just kind of there to be the straight man to the goofy guys who are like making all the trouble. And she's like the smart person, but she's also like dumb because she thinks he's actually speaking sexy Italian to her.
Let's look at 1980s. Let's look at 1980s Vogue covers right now, right? Let's look at it. Oh yeah, it is this whole like concept of just seduction and outside the box, and look at me in the eyes, and I'm gonna, as a woman, I'm gonna control the field. And in a time period, I would say until lately, in the last 5 to 10 years, like, I mean, you know, I mean, it was such an empowering moment, I feel like, for women in the 80s, like to be like, look, I can be sexy and seductive without having to actually be, first of all, prostitute, and second of all, like, acknowledge that I'm just sexy for sexy. I'm obviously smarter than everybody involved in this film. You know, like
yeah. Oh, like every single one of her outfits was incredible.
Like,
those shoulders with those Guess jeans. Guess jeans were everything. But then she's like wearing, like when she goes to meet Archie for the first time, she's literally wearing like flowery pattern dresses. Like the blue one she wore, I literally had a red one of that as a kid. Like, that's not necessarily like sexy, but it looks so good on her.
So it's like, a vibe, right? It's a vibe. I mean, they're challenging so many different things in that. I mean, this is Monty Python level, right? Like, it's like ironic in some ways, or it's like addressing certain things on a comedic level, but also like, this is what it is. And, or also it's more than this, you know, like it's recognized as Jamie Lee Curtis turned it into so many different things, and that's why I mean, amongst other things, she's just exceptional in this film. 100%, she stole the film. She taught that sexy means more than just looks, for sure, which is for men most of the time, obviously, and before and after that it's more than that, and women have more control outside of looks, but they use it to do what they want, you know, like it.
I feel like a modern equivalent.
Is that right to say? Is that right to say?
I think she's one of, but like she has huge star power, especially at that time, because I think right before this she had done Trading Places, where she was a prostitute, and then she did Perfect, where she plays an aerobics instructor with John Travolta, and that was like huge. And then before that she did more horror stuff. But and then
redefined sexy, right? It redefined sexy in the 80s.
I think that I don't think I know enough about 80s sexy to say that, but I think that she is definitely an example of that. And I would say like a more modern day equivalent of that is like Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Oh, Maggie.
Because she kind of has a weird, she's like, again, she's also not like drop dead gorgeous, like, oh my God.
She's not conventional.
She's not conventionally beautiful, but she is in her own way, and she has so much sexuality in her. Like the original, like a much better alternative film to like 50 Shades of Grey is her in Secretary, where she is a secretary that gets into a BDSM relationship with her boss, and it's really hot. But also like she was in Dark Knight. Compare her to Katie Holmes in Batman Begins, because she replaced her.
I don't.
Katie Holmes is nothing.
But I guess as a gay person, and Isaiah, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but like I feel like as a gay person, that's what I guess I noticed was like, you know, I feel this sexuality from Jamie Lee Curtis. I feel this vibe. I'm not obviously like that's my thing for her, but like I noticed that's such a beautifully orchestrated part of her role in this film, and I feel like that's addressing something larger in the film. And I wasn't born in the 80s either. I don't know, but I just feel like she just redefined what that could have meant in the 80s and 90s. I would say even after that, you know, that's why I say that.
I think that's very sound, because in the 90s, she played opposite Arnold Schwarzenegger, like one of the biggest stars at the time, in like I haven't seen it. I just know that she does like super sexy stuff in it, but she's also like falls down a lot. And she's the one that provides the comedic like outlet in that movie.
Really?
The movie is True Lies.
You don't like in this film, or in like speaking to the general genre of that specific thing in the 80s?
What's the question?
I don't know. I was vibing off of you.
I think what you're saying, that she kind of changed kind of that landscape of like sexy women in the 80s. I think that's sound. That seems right. Like, I think there's something to that.
Jamie is all about Jamie Lee Curtis is all about unconventional and women's empowerment for sure, and like as she should from the beginning. In the film industry, that's very hard to do too. Like it's hard to land roles in a typecast period. This is why I said that there's a level of indie to it. And I don't know, again, I don't know anything about the 80s in terms of the film industry too much, but she's able to pull that off. You can be sexy and also work it in a way that's not demeaning. It's not working against women. It's not working against a lot of things, and you can use it as personal power. And also, like, you are who you are, and you can do what you want with what you have. And it'll be beautiful and fine as it is. That was deeper than intended. Yeah. But also...
Also well said, though.
What did you think, Isaiah, as the straight man in this, what did you think of Wanda? What did you think of Jamie Lee Curtis?
I thought Jamie was great. I thought she was fun to watch. I liked I don't know. I just liked her character. I thought, like, I wrote down in my, like, I was watching the movie, like, men are stupid and weak. Just because she's, like, just turning around from one guy to the next guy being like, hey, help me over here. And like, oh, okay, I'll do it. And then like, hey, help me over here. Oh. And so, like, she definitely commanded the entire movie and, like, the plot and what happened. And so.
Yes, she did.
Like, she was the one driving the bus.
Who did you identify with most in the film, Isaiah?
Wanda the fish.
Because you get it?
Just a fly on the wall. You had to watch the whole thing.
No.
Put me on the spot. I don't know.
Reflecting on everything. No, I love that. Why is that? Why do you think? What's the most salient reason why you feel like you identify with Wanda the fish here? Without going too deep, obviously.
I don't know. I feel like I just didn't identify with any of the other characters, right? Like, Archie is this guy who, like you said, Bailey, at the beginning, like this kind of like very laid back, like, oh, I'm just going to do everything the right way. And then, like, as the movie progresses, as she like gets involved with Wanda, becomes this more outspoken, almost American type.
That does sound like you. And then you met Micah and I.
Yeah,
we're your human one.
For sure.
Then what's the dude that reminds me of Robin Williams? Otto. Yeah, Otto's just insane the entire time.
Yes!
It's deranged.
Let's talk about Otto!
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's where this needs to go next. But
I was literally going to be like, how are you guys not talking about Otto? Please talk about Otto.
I have plenty to say. Where do we begin?
Also, I'm awful with timelines. Like, you guys are talking about the 80s stuff. I'm just like missing everything. I don't know what went. I don't know what didn't play. I don't know what played in the 70s. I don't know, 90s, whatever.
Sure. That's fine. That's okay.
I felt like Otto reminded me, or at least, is it Kevin Kline? Is that his name?
Kevin Kline.
He reminded me so much of Robin Williams.
Yeah, there were some points where like his voice, his diction, and the tone, his like comedic timing was very, very similar.
So I don't know. You can probably tell me, like, what was where did Robin fall? Like, was it?
So Kevin Kline's debut film was Sophie's Choice. Do you know that movie?
Never seen it.
But you know, like, the term?
Again, heard of it.
So
couldn't explain it to you.
The movie basically, the term Sophie's Choice is like making an impossible choice, because in the movie, Sophie has to pick which of her 2 children is going to be sent to die in the concentration camp ovens.
Oof.
Yeah, and Meryl Streep's in that. She literally like has to pick, is her son gonna die or is her daughter gonna die? Yeah, like, and that's the Sophie's choice. She picks the daughter, by the way. The daughter dies.
Spoilers.
Damn it. But I'm glad she did. In a way, I'm very glad she did.
Anyway, and then he was in a lot of like big films. A Fish Called Wanda got him an Oscar. One of the very, very few modern comedic roles that has won an acting Oscar, actually. That's almost
thing. That's very surprising in a way.
Yeah.
And then Robin Williams was making movies when?
Robin Williams, he started on Mork and Mindy in the 70s. Mostly hit, and he did like Good Morning Vietnam in the 80s. Most of his big rise, I would say, would probably be the 90s.
Aladdin?
I mean, Aladdin. I think throughout the 80s he was known more for his stand-up.
Miss Doubtfire
is definitely 90s.
Yeah, that was before Aladdin, right? Yeah, I just felt like Kevin Kline's performance and like the way he was acting, it reminded me a lot of that, which I just didn't know who came first. I was curious on that one. But yeah, other than that, like Otto, the actual character,
it was unusual. It was unusual to see, and especially
bipolar,
narcissist for sure.
Yeah,
and really putting that up to comedic value on that level, and I'm glad.
It's fun to watch though. Like the whole scene where he's like can't even practice how to say sorry, and then like and then like the robbery, but then like like that was hilarious. Like that was honestly one of the funniest scenes of the movie for me. And then the other one I really liked was when he's chasing him around the yard, being like, "Just let me apologize." Like
I'm gonna put a gun to your head. Like, let me tell you how I'm sorry I am. You know?
As a character, he's awful. But like as like a viewer, I thought he was the funniest part of the movie. So
I think you're right.
Like he's a perfect he's a perfect character in the movie. Like I can't imagine the movie without him.
No, me neither.
Like I'm looking up his quotes now and just that it's Ken coming to kill me.
His character was largely responsible for the entire thing to move forward. Like really on an acting level, it required his individual issues as a narcissist to be able to.
If Wanda and Jamie Lee Curtis drove the bus, I mean, Otto was putting in the fuel to get him there.
Yeah. So. No, like
so he was great.
He's super narcissistic, but he is also like extremely insecure about his intelligence. Like, don't call me stupid.
Oh my gosh.
Like our first introduction to him is he is reading Nietzsche.
I hadn't thought about that either. That was another one of those things where the movie started. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna take note of that. I bet that comes back later. And I hadn't thought about it until just now. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty ironic.
But that's classic. That's classic narcissist, right? Like they don't never want to be perceived as less than, even if they're like completely off base. Like it's like this is totally not what it is. And I'm guessing that's what was first introduced as a problem, one of many in the 80s that was brought to light in that film, right?
Maybe
not. Maybe not.
I
don't know.
I think that kind of narcissist, like turned up to like the nth degree in a comedy, is so good. And I can't really think of any other like comparison because he's like a caricature because he's like I'm very smart, I speak Italian, but the second you question his intelligence, he like starts off like yes, and then completely devolves into a fuckboy. Like quite literally, I have it right here. You pompous, stuck-up, snot-nosed, English, giant, twerp, scumbag, fuckface, dickhead, asshole. How very interesting. You're a true Vulgarian, aren't you? You're the Vulgarian, you fuck.
Classic. narcissist response.
I mean, I heard that, and like I was having flashbacks to like an ex-boyfriend who was very narcissistic like this.
Right.
And very like insecure about his intelligence. Not that he was stupid, but he was very much like, oh, you said something that makes me not sound smart. You know?
Like, I can't be wrong, maybe even on top of that. Like, it's just like both, honestly, it ties hand in hand. It's like, I can be wrong and I sound stupid, and that's not going to work with me.
But Otto's character, again, as terrible he was as a character, like, movie couldn't have done anything without it. Like, it was perfect. I thought it was hilarious. Very well played. And then Ken reminded me of like a robber from like Home Alone. Like that's what his character reminded me of. Like the kind of bumbling, and maybe it's wrong just because he had the stutter, but like I don't know, like the whole scene with like he had his like own separate movie going on with him and the old lady.
The B-plot.
That was complete. That kind of like a movie by itself, and then just him with like the pear and the fry. I don't know. He reminded me like out of something like Home
It was this
like made fun of the entire time.
Oedipus complex. Is my drunkenness. It was absolute Oedipus complex right there, where it's like
I like the punching bag.
Yeah, absolutely. You're fighting against that. Go ahead, Bailey.
Well, like he has the stutter, but he was good at what he did like at the beginning, and then I think like the whole thing with him he kept messing up like the killing the woman. I think that it was just because she had the dogs, he was overcompensating for not wanting to hurt them. That he did hurt them, which was for comedy. Every time he killed one of those dogs, I laughed so hard.
It was amazing. It was amazing and terrible at the same time, and absolutely true to the Oedipus complex.
Yeah.
And then he got the punching bag got its revenge at the end. Kind of finally found a voice and got to run over some guy with a steel, like whatever you call that thing.
He wanted to kill her so bad without hurting them.
Steamroller.
Like, it was that level, and then he ended up having to hurt them every single time, and then having to watch his own fish having to be eaten by the narcissist at the very end.
Oh, that was sad.
Yeah, that was probably the saddest part of the movie.
He kept eating his fish. Poor Ken. It's basically the whole thing is poor Ken.
There was a moment like after like he ate the fish called Wanda. Like I was like there was a moment in my heart. I was like, oh, did they have to do that? He couldn't have let them spit it back out. Like, oh, that hurts. I feel for him. This isn't the movie I'm supposed to feel during. Why did I feel that?
Right. It was this narcissist level. You know he won't. Like, you know he won't, and that's the horror in that moment. It's like, you know he won't stop, and he will continue. And like with this poor guy's complex or his animals, it was like, oh, this poor human being, like I can't stand it. It was terrible.
And so that was the actor was Michael Palin, also of Monty Python, my favorite of the Monty Python guys. And
who is he in Monty Python again?
So in Holy Grail, he was Sir Galahad, the Chaste.
No way.
No. And then he was also he played a few different roles in that movie. And then he played he
couldn't be.
Huh?
Sir Galahad? Ken?
Yeah. Sir Galahad the Chase.
I'm black.
In The Meaning of Life, who did he play in Meaning of Life? He had a ton of different roles. And in Meaning of Life, he is the Catholic dad who has to sell his children to science for science experiments because they can't afford to feed all their kids. And they sing a song about how the Catholic Church won't let him use a condom. So they sing a song called Every Sperm is Sacred. And that's him in that movie. And and it's literally like him and his wife fuck so too much. They keep having kids because she's apparently a rabbit. But like the irony is they have to literally sell the children to be used for science. Every sperm is sacred.
Every sperm is sacred.
It speaks to the trueness of that entire role and the message entirely. And I say this. with an accent and a late cause because thank you, Sweetwater, going coastal. And this is
But anyway, so George Palin, his father actually had a stutter. So in the movie, he based his performance off of his father.
I was gonna ask. I was wondering if the actor who played Ken had a stutter at all or not. So that's interesting.
No, and like, well, Isaiah, do you know much about like stuttering? Like, was that a thing that you studied in school?
Not a whole lot. I mean, little bits here and there, but not intensively.
What about Micah?
I literally just posted something on Instagram about having a stutter. I do have a stutter.
Really?
Yeah.
So yeah, what did you?
Oh, go ahead.
What did you think of the portrayal?
That's why I thought it was so well done. Is because it's hard to do that unless you know what that's like, because otherwise it just sounds so inauthentic. You have to have some sort of level. Just literally just happened now, and not intoxicated included. Like even if I was sober, like I couldn't be able to pronounce certain words because my mouth wants to move faster, or my brain's like, say this now, and like I just literally can't. That's why I was really impressed with the way he was able to perform that on camera.
Well, like in the movie, there are like peaks and valleys of his stutter. When it's the worst is when he's with Otto, who completely like destroys him and his confidence and eats his fish. And
that presents a whole nother level though, because of the LGBTQ level of that, because obviously if this narcissist coming in pretending to be a gay person, and it's not even offensive, like it's just like comes off like I'm a narcissist, I'm gonna do what I want and I'm gonna just do what I can to get out of the situation, and like it works. And
tap into that British homophobia.
Yes. And this poor guy's like, because you remember, like I remember vividly, at least like that moment in front of the elevator, and like, you know, the first time he confronts this poor guy about like, oh, I'm in love with you, you know, Otto's like, I'm just trying to get out of the situation. But for this poor man, it's like maybe I'm into this.
I read it more as for Ken, it was, this guy is horrible to me. Wait, now he's like saying that he wants to have sex with me?
Ken just seemed confused the entire movie. Like Ken was even more out of the loop than George, and George was not like practically not even in the movie. So
yeah, for sure. I'll accept that too. Like that's a very, very real interpretation of that, I would say. But like I just for the level of commitment to that moment as an emotional reaction, like the level of time on camera that he would spend like evaluating whether this is okay, and be like, yeah, I actually might consider this being a part of me, like was just very interesting, I thought.
Micah, what did you think about him being at the end being like, I'm cured? Like, is that really a thing with like having a stutter?
I feel like a vote of confidence definitely plays a role into how you project and how you're there in a moment for things, because a lot of it is psychological and you go into it kind of partially dissociating into certain conflicts. And for him, you know, being a very obviously passive individual, he's going into this and like, this is obviously so important, you push me to limits, I don't even care what I'm doing or saying. And I just think that's really cool too, and that's why I think he's able to say and do what he says on camera in that moment, purely from that angle.
Yeah, I second that take. I think that like his role, like his entire character complex like almost completely switched at the end there, which it flipped from being passive to being like overly confident. I am doing this, I don't care what people think. And so it's like, I think it like added to the emphasis of that, especially because like, if you think about the other time it got cured, it was when Wanda kissed him, and that was like, oh, I can, like he slowed down and talked like almost a complete sentence.
Well, yeah, the level of trust and I mean, anytime he's around Wanda, he's able to speak more than he can't. Yeah. But in that moment, I feel like he was surprised by his own ability to speak at the end. And it's like, you know, I didn't even care about whatever things were going on in that moment. I'm just going to do what I do anyway. And he was surprised by that. And then he committed and he's like, I have the power now, so I'm going to do what I want.
That is the power of a steamroller.
Also,
Literally.
I liked the subtlety in the joke where like he was trying to say the name of the hotel over and over, probably like for I don't know 8 minutes, and then they like the movie just like really quickly slipped in and didn't even almost address like they almost didn't even give you time to laugh at it, but like as soon as he wrote down the word of the hotel, and the guy was like the Catholic car, and he was like yeah the Catholic car, and then they moved on, but I was like I don't know they didn't even like give you a chance to laugh, but it was like I thought that was hilarious.
That was a solid timing issue. Well, not issue. It was a solid timing comedic moment, and that's why you have the cast of Monty Python in that for that moment for sure.
Going back to Otto, yeah, I loved his character. Okay, I have to say, I get why Wanda like is into him. He's very, very like his sexuality is very like animalistic. You know, it's very intoxicating. Every time he like smells his armpit, I was like, ooh.
Tell me more about Sean.
But no, like, but he's such an idiot. But he's also like, he is very sexy. But their sex scene was hilarious.
It was funny. I thought it was funny too. The way they did that with like the side by side. I like that. That was funny. With like Archie having like separate twin beds.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, as someone who's been married much longer than you, Isaiah, there are benefits to like being married that long, and like having separate beds, because some people can't sleep well with another person in their bed. I don't judge that too harshly.
I just thought it was interesting, like the idea of like these two people not interacting, like literally separated.
Yeah.
And then the side note of him using her boot as a hyperventilation mask.
That was amazing.
Like,
oh yeah,
like just the contrast between the two images was.
It's a great like
funny
juxtaposition, but like. I kept being like, it's okay. Their little nighttime rituals aren't that bad, but okay, compared to how passionate and sexy Kevin Kline and Jamie Lee Curtis are, okay, I get it. But yeah,
that's why I think it was a stab at British culture.
That too,
for sure. Because I do know I know lots of couples that do that actually, for sure, that sleep in separate beds, and that's totally fine for that exact reason you mentioned, Isaiah. But like like when it comes to the contrast of sexual and emotional intimacy, I would say it was a brilliant thing to do on camera.
I think that it plays more to like him and his wife had been married for so long that they've lulled into this like valley of like complacency, and also she was kind of a pill anyway, and his daughter was horrible. But like it makes sense that he would kind of like be so into Wanda, who, even though she just wants to know more information about the case, would be so into him.
Okay, so that was the other thing that I actually thought was really interesting. I took note of in the movie, which I think Mike was about to say the same thing, so I beat you to the punch. But like the very first scene of the movie, when we meet Archie and the wife, when he's like he has this like almost like childish grin on his face, like I won the case, nothing. Oh, yeah. And then like again, like by the way, I won the case, and then like nothing. And so then like going from that to all of a sudden meeting this like young, beautiful American who's like, tell me everything about your job and your case. And he's like, oh.
Isn't that the male fantasy?
Oh, yes and no. Because later he says, like, you're allowing me to do things I could never do that British culture prohibits. Like, I could never be as free as I am now, masculine, British, whatever it is, because I don't fucking know. But like that was a very liberating moment. But also what absolutely what Isaiah was saying, like I can do what I can here that I can't in this marriage. After 20 something, well, he actually mentioned, right, how many years they've been together?
Yeah, I don't remember.
30,
25, whatever it was.
A long time. I don't know. I just think like, not to give any like a pass, but like I think the movie did a good job like setting that up, because I think they had to set that up, right? Because they painted this guy as this like I do everything the right way, and so like I think having set that up just subtly kind of at the beginning, where you could see where he'd have that moment of
and why
this is different.
Makes sense. And also why she would respond the way she does too. Like it wasn't like this all or nothing situation where it's like you identify with Archie only.
Or even going back to like what Bailey said about the lull, like that there was that lull in the marriage, and then maybe that was like something that his wife used to do, or like they used to talk about that all the time. So like almost a like flashback of like, oh, I remember what this used to be like.
And there is that moment where like the wife takes Wanda's ugly ass locket and is like, oh, Archie, I love it. And then she starts like kissing him and getting like, oh, let's the two of us go to bed or something. Like it's clear that there's still something there. It's just in a marriage that long, I imagine that, you know, even just the smallest thing of for her on her end being like, you got me a gift? Wow.
Right. I think that's important to notice too. One, we should talk more about how ugly that locket is, but two, the fact that like we're talking a lot about how like the wife was kind of annoying and the daughter was kind of annoying, but at the same time I think that thing kind of puts it in perspective. It's Archie's fault too, and like Archie like clearly paid no attention to her, and she's like, oh, well this hasn't happened in a while. I mean, like, thank you for paying attention to me and getting me a gift. Wow.
20-something years of marriage, you would think you could be able to speak about things like your needs, right? Like you could talk about like, this isn't working, like this isn't working for our marriage, like I want to know you better, let's get this back to where it used to be. And like this is like, why is this happening now in this movie?
Well, that's that other thing you mentioned earlier about like the stereotype of British people not talking about their feelings, not communicating, you know? And also like many people don't really know how to communicate in a relationship, which is why a lot of relationships end when they don't need to. Yeah, I mean, I didn't like hate the wife, like she was a pill, but like I hated the daughter. I hated that daughter.
Can you like I don't know, Zavel. I don't know if you can be named Portia. You're not that type of person. Like if your name is Portia, that's who you are. I don't know if you can be any other type of Portia.
She was very like spoiled and like going on and on about needing a nose job. And also, but how old was she? Because
she was acting like she was like 14.
The last time we see her, she's literally wearing like a pink baby like toddler dress and like curls and a bow in her hair.
Yeah, and then the way she talked to was like that age, but then they also like treated her like she was like 22.
Because they were gonna go to the pub, right? So she had to be like 18.
They were gonna go to the pub, so interesting.
And that could be a discrepancy between the rest of everybody else and what that could have intentionally meant. I do know a lot of Portias, and they're not in it.
The thing that really made me
defend the Porsches. I apologize to all Porsches out there.
No, I know you.
I didn't mean to put in the same category as a Chad or
canceled. Yeah. Isaiah's canceled.
No. I mean, Washington versus the Southeast. I mean, this is a true fact. I mean, I don't know. I have never met a more Porsche in the Washington State PNW area. And Portia is more, as a name, exists more in the Southeast, and it's not.
I've never met anyone with that name.
Really?
Well, because it's like a car name.
Oh, maybe so. Porsche. Oh, maybe so. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? That's a lesser detail. Audience, that's a lesser detail. That doesn't matter. We love you. All right. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say something, but I've completely forgotten it.
I'll go to something else on my mind. Can we talk about how long it took them to break up that fight in the courtroom when they had like 10 security guards?
Well, you saw like Jamie Lee Curtis like was still standing there until he got really close, and then
I was like, how is this happening? Like, you didn't see a security guard for like 5 minutes. And if like the scene before, they were like standing right next to him. Yeah. I thought that was funny.
You know what? Local city government is to a level incompetent, but they're not so incompetent to not allow that to happen. Like
they can't all be Leslie Nopes.
No. And then to have associated family members in the I just can't. Your wife is there, like, you know, being summoned. It's so not at all like appropriate in any capacity. Like Isaiah, I think you're right. That was just a bizarre entertainment moment, and they just had to find a way to move that along.
Oh, the thing that really like turned me around like on the wife, like I was like, yeah, was when Otto had his bullshit reason for why he was there.
Oh,
and she was like, my father was in the Secret Service. If you have a KGB detainee, you do not let people know about it.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. She got all like stern. I was like, why would you tell anyone? And just not backing down.
For our audience members, I flirted with someone who I believe is on that level in a bar, and you're not going to get answers, so all you can do is speculate. But your gut instinct is usually right, and you can always base off of what the most vulnerable, most closest person in the family can tell you about the situation. And so while it was maybe or maybe not well portrayed, I do think that was also correct, because MI6 agents aren't going to tell you, but your family knows better. Period.
I just thought that was a cool moment. Like, I agree with you, Bailey. Like, the wife kind of just been like, yeah, it doesn't actually make sense. You're an idiot. And then being the fact that it's Otto just made it even better, because it's like her calling him stupid. Just spun him into a rage.
That wasn't right. But okay. I'm just saying I identify with that moment. That's all I'm saying.
Did you notice how like literally every time Otto has to interact with someone that's not Ken or Wanda, and they're like explaining something, he always says, what was the middle part?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
So good. Well done, honestly.
Yeah,
very well done. He earned that Oscar, man. Like, or
even when like he said it too when there's only like two things. Like they said one thing or this thing. Like, what was the middle part? You're like, I didn't catch that till the end either. I think he was at the airport when the lady was like, one question, another question.
Why was that such a cool and important, not cool, but like an important moment, and why he won that award?
I think it just spoke to his insanity.
I think because it's very subtle, because he says it quietly in a few times that you can miss it, but also like his performance was very unique in how bombastic he was, but also like so courageous. I want to say the way he screamed, "Nobody look at him, he's mine," to Ken when they're out in public. Like, what's another movie like that's that bonkers, but also funny, but also like, yeah, I can see like someone being like this in real life, like this stupid, this like whatever.
It truly was like they walked that line like really well. Like it wasn't like over the top goofy, but I don't know. I thought it was really well done.
I think it's also like the way the character was written, because he's a total narcissist who thinks he's so intellectual. Like Wanda's telling him all the reasons he's an idiot, and it's like, what is it? One of the first sects of Buddhism isn't every man for himself or something. And she's like, and he's like, intellectual people read Nietzsche, and she's like, yes, but they understand him.
That's a good line.
That was amazing. I love that. It's like, you can't miss this. Like, that was the whole point. You can't actually miss the point of Buddhism the way you have. Like, there's no fucking way. This is the exact opposite of this entire belief, and you have managed to do that.
And like the whole thing with him waiting outside of Archie's house, and he's about to like meditate, and then he hears someone and just rolls off the ground ready to go. That was great. It's such
man's
great.
A walking complex. Walking contradiction.
You know what?
Great comedic physical.
Yeah, I would say complexes are hard to perform off like on camera. You have a script, right? You have to perform to life, and then you have a dynamic to work with on top of that, and he manages to do both of those. And Bailey, that's exactly right. That's why he won. Exactly.
That was good. No, it was really good. And like I said, I think it was the best part of the movie.
I would say that
wise, and
he survived the steamroll at the end was a little.
Like, yeah. Well, it was in cement.
Yeah, I mean,
it was
I can
in
see
cement.
it, like,
if he let's be honest. I knew he wasn't dead by the fact that if you are actually run over by those, your body, your
Explodes.
Insides pop out like a toothpaste.
Yeah, like if I like took a Go-Gurt and just kept twisting it.
Yeah. But
I don't know. I think I could pass. I can give it a pass for him being alive, but I think it's funny because like if he couldn't move out of the way of the steamroller because like his feet were stuck, he's not gonna get out after the steamroller.
I chalked it up to like when it was done, his feet popped up and then he could kind of wiggle out. But no, I think that if they had killed him off, it wouldn't have been as funny because he, as much of a bastard he was a great character.
The other thing is like we can't criticize this movie for its realities and unrealities, like or realistic and unrealistic moments. I mean, like because it's yeah.
Him bringing the gun into the airport.
That's my point. Like we can't critique like like that's not the point. But
well, aside from the heist, when was the most unrealistic? Like when did the realism? When did that leave for you in the movie?
When he had Archie hanging out the window and had the foresight to pin Archie's tie so that it didn't go like that. that was the cake. That was the cherry on top of that comedic cake for me.
I didn't catch that. That's good.
The fact that his tie stayed in place.
Yeah, that's funny. Moon landings weren't real. The flag was wired. No wind.
Also, like the very last gag of the movie being Otto. That's why he survived. His jealousy brought him back to life, so he could be in the air.
I know you need to be in that last frame. No, I think the whole. If you're talking about like unrealisticness, the entire airport scene at the end, like one, the gun, two, the diamonds. 3, being stuck in the closet and then shooting his way out and the maid not freaking out at all. 4, the cement steamroller. And 5, the fact like the dude went down the luggage cart and no one's, I mean, I get it. It's the 80s. Like airports were a little bit easier to walk around, but.
That's why I got
Archie just walks onto the plane too.
I thought that it was the moment he denied on camera in the movie that he wasn't stupid. That's when it clicked for me that this is supposed to be.
How long have you been planning to say that?
That was like,
don't call me stupid.
Like, okay, all right. So you're taking the time to do this. So therefore, we know low key what to expect from the rest of the film.
When Jamie Lee Curtis is with John Cleese and they're like in the bed and they're about to make out. And he just comes up, don't call me stupid.
In the glass? No, in the room.
When he's in the bed with them.
The flat, like right, but the first time they're at the flat before.
Okay, I skipped that part because I was so like, conflict, I can't.
That's right, you messaged me that because he was naked. Yeah, John Cleese is sexy. Tall, like well-built, middle-aged man, even with the bald spot, like.
Is that why they sell it so well?
What?
Is that why they sell that role so well? Is because like he's so sexy and so stupid.
Well, he wrote the movie.
Of course he did. Yeah. That's what she said at the beginning. Like, yeah, of course he wrote the movie and cast himself kissing Jamie Lee Curtis.
I mean,
great move.
And then like, yeah, he was so great in that, and the way that, he is naked and the family walks in and they're like, what are you doing here? He's like, what are you doing here? This flat belongs to this guy and you are trespassing and I don't care that I'm naked. Your kids are not supposed to be here. So I'm not going to be ashamed of my body. And they're like, well, he just leased this place 2 weeks ago. And he's like, oh.
That makes sense.
You know what? No British family would stay so long. They would rush their children out. They would run away from the entire situation. And the mom was like, oh, don't I know you from somewhere? Like, never mind your beautiful penis. Like, let's just not look at that right now and focus on the fact that I know you from somewhere. Like, that's just not real. No.
I must take us back to the sex scene. You noticed at the very end, before it closes with him, having the funny face, did you notice Jamie Lee Curtis literally does not react that entire time?
So I was watching that too. I think like the legs that were in that scene were like no one was laying there, and the legs were like someone else facing the other direction to make it look like
No, those
super
were her
unreal.
legs. Those were her
I know,
legs.
but I don't think she was laying there. Like I think she was in a different position to make it look.
No, she was. We saw her hair.
Because the hair didn't look the same though. Like that's what I was saying. Because I noticed that scene too, and I'm like, I don't know if that's actually a real person.
It was. That was her.
It was? Okay, because I was meaning to ask that question.
I know her legs.
I'm sorry. No, I mean the legs may have been hers. I'm not sure like the hair was though.
Oh.
Also, when he's like he's like daggering her, like jumping up, and like there's a tiny split second where you see light between her body and the blanket and him, and it's like they're clearly not having actual sex. Took me out of the picture.
Yeah, it's ruined it for you.
Yeah, but I just loved how like it'd been a while since I seen the movie, and he's like going crazy like with passion, and it's like she's not saying a thing. She's not enjoying this. And how can you?
Yeah.
All what is it? All sizzle, no spark.
For sure. I read up
was the accents.
Accent?
The languages.
Oh yes. So yeah, do you want to know all the things he said?
Yes.
So yeah. I started studying Italian a couple months ago, like off and on, and a lot of the way he pronounced the words were not correct, but he was speaking Italian, but like basic Italian. So like the very first thing he says is momento carissima, moment dearest, and then the very first time when he's speaking Italian, he's like, what is it? Per cominciare, 2 insalate verde con pepperoni e un linguine primavera. For starters, 2 salads with peppers and a spring linguine.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I swear I heard like mozzarella a few times. I heard pepperoni a few times. I heard like gorgonzola a couple times.
So the rest of it, he says, say goodbye to George. Absolutely. It's very dangerous, miss. A Milanese, Milanese ossobuco with peas, Parmesan eggplant with spinach. Where's the pharmacy? And then during their big sex scene, he says, here is the man. Ooh, the 2 big domes of the Cathedral of Milan. Benito Mussolini. Where is the Vatican? Oh, here is Rome. To fly and sing. Oh, because he was singing Volare by Dean Martin at the end.
I know he was. I know the Italians were dying at the end of that entire film. For sure, dying. I'm dying listening to this. Not that I knew, but I knew because I.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. But what about did you look up the Russian at all or no?
A little bit, like
That one didn't seem as.
Sorry, Russians. If you're listening,
he was definitely like speaking real Russian, you know. So I assume what he was saying was actual like sexy, but like the whole joke with Otto was like he's just saying like 101 shit.
The whole gist with Otto is that he's a dumbass who thinks he's a genius.
And apparently Kevin Kline wanted Otto to speak French because he actually knows French, and John Cleese was like, no, the joke is that he's not good at speaking Italian.
That's good.
Sell it, damn it. Yeah. Put some bullshit in that. Man,
I think we're kind of wrapping up here. Was there anything else you guys noticed or wanted to talk about?
I mean, there's plenty more, but nothing that would. I think we kind of addressed everything, right, Bailey?
I feel like we did. Oh, one of the funniest scenes.
Oh, go for it.
One of the funniest scenes is where Archie pretends to rob his own house to get the ugly ass necklace.
Yeah.
And
he's
his wife is coming, and he's like, he's swallowing the necklace.
that was comedic gold as well. Like like this trying to slurp up the spaghetti noodle or something. I was waiting for him to choke on it.
Yeah, that's totally like John Cleese. That was always kind of his role in Monty Python, was like the very tall, handsome person who is very funny but extremely subtle with his comedy.
I feel like too, like those are the types of scenes that I imagine, like when as they're filming, like I imagine trying to film that scene and as the background guy, like trying not to just die laughing, like I gotta be quiet. They're filming a scene, and like watching John Cleese on the floor, hands tied by, trying to like swallow a necklace.
And then
like, I don't know, just the imagery of that was great.
And then when he gets it, and his wife comes, and she's like, "Darling, are you okay?" And he's like, like he's in pain.
Can you say anything? Can you say anything?
And then quickly she gets and he spits it out. He's like, so great. Like there's no way she would have known that what he was doing, because he masked it so well. It was very well done.
Who knows? The other thing I was going to say was I think it's funny how we spent like an hour and a half talking about this whole thing, and I think we maybe mentioned George's name once and gave him like 30 seconds of airtime, just because like that was the character in the movie that it could have been anybody. It didn't matter. I felt like that character was kind of there. Yeah. There really wasn't. It was just you needed him for the plot, but it didn't really go beyond that, which it didn't necessarily need to. There was already so many like powerful roles in it. I just think it's just a dude.
Yeah, I agree. Like he was just there he was there to bring Otto and Wanda into the situation and then be like the catalyst for them not getting what they want.
Yeah.
And then meeting Archie. There he is.
Sorry about that. Breaking up the podcast for reasons undisclosed. Please continue.
Isaiah?
Well, I just think it's interesting because it's like it was an extremely insignificant role that also played probably, like you said, the most important part in the movie, because it's what brought them to the courthouse. It's what brought it's the reason why they like couldn't. It just drove a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, whereas like the actual character itself did almost little to nothing.
Yeah.
Talking about George.
Who?
George.
Micah, any last thing you want to mention?
Sorry, my air freshener ruined my speech just then. No, it was a great film. I do recommend for all beginners who are trying to experience or experiment the direction they want to go in the 80s and in general the film industry. I think it was a groundbreaking film, and that and I'm very supportive of it.
99 cents on Amazon Prime.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I did.
My Amazon Prime just went up, so I found other ways.
HBO, man, it's the thing now.
Yeah, it's like definitely one of my favorite comedies.
No,
for sure. So I'm very glad you guys enjoyed it.
Well, what I told Isaiah yesterday was this is such a Bailey film. And
yeah, it was a Bailey film for sure.
How so?
I just think the simplest way to put it is the dry humor, but
maybe so. The rough around the edges kind of vibe to the film was for sure a Bailey.
The Kung Pao Chicken-esque, like I don't like goofiness, but also like just I don't know. It was a good movie. I liked it. Good recommendation.
Yeah. It's very nice. Yeah. It's one of my favorites. I have a list of movies I want to show you guys, and that was like at the very top. So I'm happy.
I'm so glad that you have decided to cast this next movie in our Code 6 premiere.
British is back.
It is because I know it's ending, so I don't have to keep it up too long. And I have a Mrs. Marple crime film to watch next. So I'm excited about that. But never mind, we're in the middle of a podcast. How rude of me. So thank you, Bailey, for this, and I'm thankful for my film career to examine all of its contents, and it's been good.
Very good. So
Well said.
Yeah,
She was
very
spoken
good.
British the entire time. I listened more that time.
All right. Well, Micah, do you want to close us out?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Code 6. My British accent is back. I appreciate your support in spite of the comments that listen to the trolls. We are here for all of your documentary and film inquiries on a grunge and underground level. This is Code 6. Tune in to next time. Thank you.
Don't call me stupid.